Hello everyone, Random Gamer Riven here. Apologies for the slightly late start. That was me actually, just the fact I was running a export on a video. So we will have a video tomorrow. I will finally got round to doing a Fire Pro Wrestling Blazing Tornado video after we did it on the fight night at long last. So without further ado, I'm just going to get stuck straight into Profane. So this was released in 2019. It's developed by OverPowered team. It was published by Alternative Software. However, at present it appears it's currently unlisted, as OverPowered team have for some reason parted company with Alternative Software. I don't know why, which is a bit of a shame, but currently it was available on Nintendo Switch and PC. The developers have said it will be released on something soon, but I'm not sure. My guess would be they're trying to get more support for it, but the problem you face these days with all indie titles is that the market is saturated. It's just absolutely saturated. So I'm just going to jump straight into the story mode. I have previously finished the game, but let's go over it and just have fun. I'll just have fun again playing through it. I don't think I'll finish it tonight, as I haven't played this in a few months, so I'm probably going to be a bit rusty at some of the bosses. But yes, at present it's not currently available to buy, sadly. If you've got it, they have said it will be re-released at some point in the near future. And if I was going to give a bit of a hint to the developers, so at the minute the problem is the market is saturated. Nintendo Switch is saturated as well. I really don't think it's... I don't actually recommend publishing on the Switch now, because I know people say it's so saturated. Sales on the Switch have just collapsed for the indie stuff. Plus the store is not particularly very well done. Just let the intro play out. So basically the aim is to move around, collect souls, and basically blast the bosses. Attacks drain your health. Collect them, yeah, so I have to use that to dash across. I must admit, I did really enjoy Profane. I did really enjoy it. I think the only criticism is I felt there wasn't much last ability having gone through and finished it. I did think it could have done with slightly more last ability and spent a bit more time with it. But I think I spent about 8 hours with it in total, so it was a good length. So I'm actually, I'm actually not going to buy any power-ups. So I have already beaten the game, so I think I can change. No, because I'm doing story mode afresh. You basically have to do story mode. I think you have to play through. I think this was a one-shot game. You basically have to beat all the bosses in a get-go. So one of the achievements, or Steam achievements, is to beat a boss without using an ability. So I haven't yet done that, so I'm going to give this fella a try, seeing as he's the first boss and probably the easiest. Especially they have multiple health bars, you see that. They have made a few changes since I last played. They made a few upgrades. They have added in mouse support, which is a very good, much needed change for the health bar. So if I can beat a boss without using any ability whatsoever. This boss is tutorial. The Last Herald. The story is a little bit vague, I will admit. It's perhaps not as well. They've tried to obviously do a Dark Souls style story, I think, but they need to explain it more. Perhaps give a bit more character to some of the bosses, why you're fighting them, what relation they are to the whole story at the start. The tutorial just gives you don't understand why you're actually fighting the bosses. It doesn't make any sense. I think it sort of implies they might be related to the previous tribes, now cursed, or henchmen of the main. Then, although this one seems to be a training boss, so he seems to be character training you in preparation for the battles ahead. Yes, originally they didn't have mouse and keyboard controls. They did add it in, the developers, which is a really good thing. Although I do still think this is probably best with the joypad. And as you can tell, I am definitely playing this with the joypad. I actually dug up my spare 360 randomised gaming joypad because I suddenly realised if I'm going to be doing this, I should probably on a joypad rather. Because the mouse and keyboard controls aren't bad, they're not as good as damage. And here he comes for the final attack. Or here we go for the final attack. Kudos if anyone knows what that reference is to. I don't think I've actually beaten this chap yet, so basically your health bar is a time bar. When it runs out, you then basically on your last hit, so you can effectively beat a boss with no time whatsoever. I've definitely changed up a few of the bosses actually. I don't really attack. Now, don't expect to beat this guy on your first go. Oh yes, I did actually do it. Domination. Actually beat a boss without achievements or any abilities. Nice. Singularity beam, spike boy. Okay. So you got a load of. You basically get different attacks and passive abilities here. So the orb one, the spike boy wasn't actually that good, but this the charge shot. So this is the second boss. Basically, you can select the bosses in the training mode. They did change it, so the training mode, they did patch it after I'd done the indie first impressions. They did patch it so you could do like the training mode or the practice mode before you finish the game, which was quite helpful because I think some people, because often you would get to a point and then struggle. Because I think this was, as I remember, you had to get to the boss. If you died, you went all the way back to the beginning again. So. Straight to this, I don't have the rumble on, but it still rumbles right at the start, and that's about it. So yeah, this is very smooth, very, very good. I think this is a kind of a bullet hell shoot 'em up, although it's not a purist bullet hell shoot 'em up. In fact, probably this is what I would regard as a true bullet hell shoot 'em up. So bullet hells traditionally are the Danmai Maki, how do you pronounce it? I can't quite pronounce it. That started with the Brampesto stuff. The problem was they actually rely on too much on RNG at points, and so aren't true shooters, because you can actually get in a point where you just run out of luck and you're going to die regardless. Whereas something like this, you never feel like you've actually run out of luck. You can always find a path to invasion. In damn Maki shooters, it is possible for them to actually have a thing where you can't avoid them. And quite a few of them, because they patternized the bullets and haven't patternized them correctly. Because the other thing is, I found a lot of them is you need a thing. You effectively, in order to make a good bullet hell shooter, you actually need what I describe as a complete defense. And many of them don't have it. So I'm actually going to give this boss also a go without any power-ups, although I'm not doing too well at the minute. Got 37 seconds left. If I run out of time, I don't die. It just means I then go on to my last hit. And once, basically that means any hit will then kill you. So, let's go. Here we go, 1 second into the final four. Second boss. This was actually one of the hard. If I have to be honest, this was one of the harder bosses in the game, the second one. Oh yes, and once you do hit. Oof. Ah, made a bad move there. Time over, restart. Oh, you can replay the bosses. Taking some sloppy hits at the start there. Strangely, some of the later bosses, once you start getting power-ups, are much easier, and a few of them were. This one was definitely one of the harder bosses in the game, I felt. One of the things actually good bullet hell is you don't need to move much. The game makes you think you need to move more than you do, so that's something to keep in mind when playing a lot of bullet hell shooters. Often you don't need to move as much as you think, but the game will make you move. An aim of a good bullet hell is to panic the user into moving into the bullet, not necessarily hitting the user. So a bad bullet hell will basically just throw bullets at you. In fact, if anything, a bad bullet hell is Ikaragia. Some of you might be going, oh, that's a treasure game, it's fantastic. Well, it's not a good sequel to Radiant Silvergun, and it's basically a really bad puzzle game, if I'm being one better word, because everything's so preset the way it is. It's stopped really being a shooter. Ikaragia is one of those games. It was hailed at the time, but when you actually play it, it's nowhere near the top league of shooters. It still looks stunning, it still plays very well, you can't fault it for not being mechanically driven. Oh, I'm pressing the wrong buttons there. That's what happens when you forget which button is warp and which button is super shot. Okay, so actually going to take my Game Boy Advance out of the way because that's currently blocking. I've literally got my Game Boy Advance on my desk, and it's actually blocking my line of sight for some of the bullets because it's piled on top of the box. And bonus, there is at some point a randomised gaming review of Link to the Past on the GBA still coming. It's got sidetracks with so many other things. And unfortunately, the minute YouTube's our main way of earning income, so do need to look at a few additional things on the top of YouTube, so I will get around to it at some point, but it's just I just feel like some of those hits you. This is a really good shooter in that the fact you always feel like that whenever you take damage, you feel like you're the one that's made a mistake. In some bullet hells, you feel like the game has just gone air. And indeed, as I discovered, in a couple of people have subsequently met on some bullet hell shooters, some of them are basically a massive shot. Some of them literally basically put you in an unwinnable situation if you bullet hells, so it's actually quite interesting because it made me realise that some bullet hell shooters are really badly designed. Basically, if a bullet hell ever creates a pattern, and there's quite a few games, like a lot of the cave games were badly designed in that they basically gave the user no way to escape some of the attacks, and that to me is bad design, because if the user can't escape an attack, then that's bad design. There should always be a way for the user to escape an attack, whether that be their own defense or not. I think that's ultimately kind of why Cave are these days not really making many games anymore. We've got M2 re-releasing their stuff, although re-releasing their stuff poorly, I have to add. Still waiting on a European release, guys. With quite a few of their M2 shooters, so wow, shit, that's really bad. That's what happens when you don't pay attention. Again, that's a sloppy hit. That's better. More time this time. Ah, nearly. Of course, this does have quite a huge, one of the boons about this, because of the design, there is quite an emphasis to see how fast you can beat the bosses with all the abilities, and that's what's really quite nice. You can, once you get good at basically playing through everything, you can get, and once you unlock all the abilities, it does become more of a score-a-cat game. How quickly can you beat the bosses, which is a really nice subtle touch in this. don't expect to kill, well, the first time you play this, don't expect to kill the bosses straight away. Unless you're a serious shmup player, you will not be killing these bosses quickly. Throw. I have in the past thrown it all away, so to speak, which I'm doing really well, so don't want to throw it all away, just... Oh god, no, 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 no. Oh! That's what I mean by throwing it all away, so... Should really use the walk more. Restart. Just get out the first phase without dying or taking a hit. This one's definitely, I felt, one of the tougher bosses. Even when I replayed him later on, he was definitely the one that gave me some of the most trouble. The third boss isn't too bad. The fourth boss was really. The fourth and the fifth bosses were really easy. Final boss wasn't. I think probably the hardest boss was the one in the graveyard. So really, if I want to get the abilities to do the damage quickly, I really want to get the abilities out. But... And of course, the quicker you actually kill the enemies, so if you do the more powerful attacks, the quicker you kill the enemies, the more time you're going to have at the end. Again, this is probably not stellar. Basically, the more consecutive shots you get... Oh god, that's terrible. Okay, this is an awful run. I can feel myself not quite focused enough, so that's never ideal when you're playing a title like this. You need to be fully focused. Worst comes to shove, I might just do the practice mode and skip this one. I feel I can take in. So this is one of those games you definitely need to keep. Oh, you definitely need to keep on top of it. So it's one of those games that you do need to stay. Keep playing it just to keep your skills. Because having finished it, I can feel myself that I'm making mistakes that I wasn't making previously because I'm out of practice. This is one of those games that demands you keep playing it constantly to keep your skill level up. So basically, in order to move around quickly, you need to get in closer. Come on, right. So unless I make a massive foobar now, I should do it this time. I've got plenty of time. I think there's quite a few spirits on the floor as well. It was. One of the things I can find is you can get so focused on actually dodging the bullets, you can actually forget to make sure check your shots are shooting. There he goes. Oh! Oh, I don't believe I just did that. Felt the panic in me. Let's restart that. Fear is the mind kill. I can... Right, let's do this time. But yeah, he's definitely one of the harder bosses. The next boss is not too bad. It's got quite hard form, but... So I'm get the super out, so I'm just speed up my time against him as well. So I'm not really going for the power up attacks. Visually, the art style, even as we said in the indie impressions, it's superbly done. They've gone for a very minimalist art style, and it just holds up well. So, yeah, you just be careful when deploying special attacks, so you're not invulnerable during it. It does do a lot of damage. But yeah, that's what you got to watch when things like that hit you, because if you get hit by a whole line. So I took loads of what I describe as unnecessary damage a few moments ago. That's probably unnecessary. Going for power, so I'm not watching where I was going. Yeah, you've got to, in order to close, you have to move in on the... In order to actually move around quickly, you need to get close, so you can't run around him at the far end, you do have to move in. Yeah, there's that wavy one. Probably troubling us at the moment. Right, I can feel it. This time I'm going to do it. I need to basically just relax, chill. I'll grab a few of the power-ups in this earlier section. Maybe just to try and speed it up a bit. There are additional powers to give you extra time. So once you've beaten a boss, just once you finish the game, you can redo them with all the various power-ups. I could just show you doing that, and that makes some of them really easy. Although quite nice to speak to the first boss earlier about using any. First time I've actually done that. Yeah, I need to move away from that ball in this sector because you don't have enough space. That's what I'm not doing, moving away from that purple ball when it spawns. That way I've got loads of room to move. Yeah, not a good run. I think he's got like some of the most forms as well, because not many of the other bosses actually have 4 forms, which is quite interesting, the fact that you have quite a difficult boss relatively. Oh, I just lost my focus there right at the end. Right, this time I've got him. Nope, not happy with that. So you've got to time your super attacks very carefully. I'm just going to wait for this one. That way. And then pow. Yeah, got to run from the ball. Run from the ball. And that one was just the one ball. So just run from it. Yeah, so that way it's easy to dodge. Yeah, I don't know why I haven't. Of course, I can use the dash as well, which I haven't been using. I'm just saving up power shot. Basically, those blue give you... So the dash just needs the one. Whereas the super shot needs 4. In fact. Okay, this time as you can see, I'm beginning to regain my skill, so I'm just absolutely blitzing it this time. Yep, still got a minute on the clock as well. Reaper, right, what bit? So I should, yeah, so that was good. I didn't actually use the evade. Actually, I might set that up to RB. So basically, you'll notice the less abilities you take, the more time you have. So effectively, if you don't take as much time, in fact, no, shall I? I'm just gonna. I haven't fought this boss without any ability, so let's just see how well I do without abilities, whether the additional time is helpful. So this boss, as you can see, it's actually sarcophagus to begin with, so something does come out. It only has 2 forms. See that you've got to very much duck, dive and weave. I probably find I'm better not taking any powers whatsoever. Because all they do is cost you time, and a lot of times just it's all about patternization, all about knowing where to move. So I think I just burnt myself a little bit there. Yep, there we go. He actually has 3 forms, doesn't he, this chap? Second form, you really want to remain on the island. Yeah, some of the enemies are a little bit hard to work out where they're actually positioning. Now, for this third form, I actually want to be on this rim bit, because I ain't going to have the option of going to the centre island very shortly. don't want to be at this point, because right now he's got the advantage where you know, this chap is actually probably easier without, because I've got good enough I'm doing before. I'm actually better off not taking powers, I think. Just because I know so I am a bit rusty, but I know the rough sort of ability. So I've still got 50 seconds on this guy, and he's almost dead. So unless I screw up my roll. Oh shit. Oh. Oh yes, got him. True aim fast and like, you know what, I'm not going to cook any power-ups again. I'm just going to try this chat. This next one's not that hard. This is the worm fight. This one only has 2 forms as I remember. I should have done the second fight with any power-ups to see how I did. Second form is much harder than his first one. Yeah, the art style does very much remind me of Fury. I think that's probably the type of thing they did. Perhaps they needed a bit more, because I don't know how well it sold. I know our videos on this haven't been viewed that hugely. Shame, because it is a fantastic game and I do recommend it, but as I said, at the minute it's not available to buy. They have said they will get it redone, as they've basically split from the publisher, which is a shame. What I would actually advise if the developers were watching is to get it out on PS5 and Xbox X. Well, this is such the new one's got such a stupid name, X-Type, and basically the new Xbox. Get it out on PS5 and Xbox thing as fast as possible. That would be my one advice to any fledgling indie developers. You want to get them at the start of a console gen, because that way you've got a captive audience where there's not that many games. At least there isn't originally. These days I think there's going to be a lot more with the backwards compatibility, which is nice, but it does mean that you've got a lot more competition because people you can already buy games on. This one I might want some few more powers, because I think the heavy beam, this one's definitely come on, 6. This one's definitely with the default power up, you do feel like you've got to run around a bit. I usually use the burst shot, which is really helpful. So here he goes in the cave, he comes out mad and he starts dropping mines. That's why I just got to shoot his tail as well, which is the reason why you wanted bombs detonate. Ooh. I think I will take a few powers to that one, because That's right, they didn't change. So I'm not going to take all the weapons, I'm just going to take the 2 weapons. Yeah, the faster movement for this one's a huge boon. In fact, the faster movement was basically very helpful for most of the bosses. Once you beat the game, you can then use the power. In fact, there are a few powers that I seem to recall aren't actually available until you beat the game, so... But yes, the art style is fantastic, and like I said, if you're a developer watching this, I would advise you to get out on the new consoles as soon as possible due to the captive audience. Basically, the start of a new generation is always the best time for any new entry. Although, if I'm being honest, this new generation is probably the most disappointing generation ever, because I'm very unimpressed with how much more powerful. One of the big things with the console generation is you need the hardware tech to really move forward, and it hasn't. And this is more like PS 4.5 and Xbox One enhanced too. I think they should have actually held off a couple more years, because the computer tech hasn't really pushed forward that much. And the other thing is now is making in-depth graphic games is so expensive now. Most studios just won't do it now. Unless you're a big Sony studio, or a big Microsoft-backed studio, you just can't afford to do those graphics that will really take advantage of all that specs. So it does flatten all the things in Revenge. Oh yes, the homing shot was very helpful on this one. It only lasts a few moments. Probably should just taken the homing shot actually. I don't think I need the other one. The other one's that useful. Let's take the homing shot. Yep, and when he dies they start throwing out, just when he's getting near death, they start throwing out epic lasers. Yes, got him. I didn't think I'd get him actually. I'll just take all that. I'm just going to stick with the base weapon for this guy first off, see how well I do. This one wasn't actually that hard. This one's quite a cool one. I know I showed most of the bosses in our long play video. I can't remember how many of them actually... Oh, frame rate's coming down there a bit. That might be my PC as I'm streaming and playing this at the same time, so... Don't recall this issue when I wasn't streaming, so... Don't recall having an issue with the frame rate when I wasn't streaming. But because I got the basically got Chrome open, I've got OBS open, so hence why I'm always a bit hence why I know a lot of professional streamers actually have 2 capture decks. You actually have one game, one PC to play the game on, and the other to do the streaming, which is a hell of a setup. Not the setup most people are going to have, because that means you need 2 dedicated PCs. I don't really frame rate for any of the other bosses, so maybe that's an issue with this one. But this one's actually quite a cool boss. I quite liked him. Oh, took a lot of damage there. Oh, took a lot more damage there. He's got 3 forms, so... Again, there's no backstory. As I said, there's not much backstory to any of the bosses, so... Unlike, I think one of the things, although this copies a lot of Fury, one thing this doesn't have is the story Fury. Fury had quite a very interesting, intrinsic story. This doesn't have that. So you miss all those people who... And you do get people who are like, oh yeah, I found the Fury story quite interesting. And even when... Oh, I'm surprised I survived that. Let's go again. Wasn't too bad. Okay, that was quite bad. That bit was actually really hard to avoid. Basically you want to keep in the centre there to avoid that. Sort of what I described as a... Basically just start spewing stuff randomly everywhere, so... So basically every shot that misses technically means you're losing time. So you have to preempt where they're going to move, know where you're going to hit. I just think the concept of how the time works in this, I think, is really well done. It's really nicely used to great effect. It's nice to see something really interesting being done with this type of genre. And this is just such a well-made example of the genre as well. Now, Fury, I don't think it's quite a bullet hell. I did play Fury a little while back. Tries to be a bit soulsy, I think. A lot of people, I'm getting slaughtered at this point. There's loads of time. A lot of people do try to emulate the Dark Souls without fully understanding the games. Although even FromSoft don't quite understand the Souls series as well, because none of them have actually been perfect games. I should take. If I fail again, I will take the super shot, which is the one you want for this chap. Triple shot as well. The triple multi-shot actually allows you just to destroy enemies completely. Okay, that's the hammer there. It's a bad move on my part. 51 minutes on the stream. I'm probably going to finish off quickly as I've got a video and a few other things to do on the channel. And I've previously covered Profane, so we've already got some other videos on it. If you still want to watch when I'm done streaming, it is a very good game, and I would say pick it up as soon as it becomes available again. But as I said, at the minute, it was out on Nintendo Switch, it was out on Steam, but currently it is delisted. The other problem they've got is there's actually another game called Profane appearing now, some MMORPG, which is like, ooh, If I'm actually being honest, the artwork of the character doesn't necessarily scream shmup to me. It's a very subtle thing, and it's very well lit. And I know myself, having worked in the industry, some people won't understand subtlety, which is a problem. You may not want to sometimes make it simplistic or obvious to the user what your game's about, but sometimes you have to. Because not every user is the same. Some people will miss the subtlety thing. Because no two humans are alike, and that is unfortunately the thing. I know myself, we did a couple of really quite cool covers and stuff for stuff, and some of it was just too, people just didn't quite understand it. And unfortunately the aim of any video game is to appeal as many people as possible to be successful. If you're aiming for, unless you know your market, you know the size of your market and can sell to your market perfectly. Well, 30 seconds, come on. He's really got him as well. Yes! There he goes, the little droid. He's quite a cool little one. Yeah, and I think that's like I said, one of the issues was the story. I think, admittedly, you don't really need a story in a game like this, but it's nice just to understand things a little bit better, and it does feel like you're just fighting monsters for no apparent reason at points in this. What were the perks I got? I think one's a long... Reduce all incoming damage, yeah. That's rubbish. I'm just going to stick with the weapons. I can't remember which boss this is. I think this is either the orbs or this is going to be... If this is the... Okay, this is the... This one is really hard. So I probably should have taken the better weapons. It's fantastic to look at, absolutely visually stunning, but it is blooming hard, this boss. Okay, what this phase, you can only hurt it only hurt the colour that's lit. So at the moment, I can only basically, as it changes, you have to go for the two different colours. This boss was really hard, but I really liked it. There's just something visually very well done about this boss. For some reason, this was probably one of the most memorable bosses in the game for me. I mean, they're all actually pretty memorable. I think in terms of being interesting, I think the token pole is probably one of the blandest bosses. And I want to try and get both. Kill them as close as possible. See, yeah, this one, this boss is tricky. You have to really go for it in this first half. In fact, I think I definitely used a few weapons to take it out much quicker, so basically it goes crazy when there's only one bit of it left. I think this one only has 2 parts though, so it's not, because effectively you've got a 3-part battle, it's only got 2 parts. Right, I think. Oh no, I think you had that 2 forms. As I said, there's just something visually stunning about this boss, just mesmerising, patterns and everything. Snake bit, okay. That's what I mean, often you don't need to move around much, you just got to be cool, calm and collective. So, all got me. Okay, I will take some weapons for that one, because this one's a hard. The 4-way slot is actually one of the most powerful weapons of the game, because what you do is you get point blank, you unleash it, and then you basically watch as the enemies. And I should have. Did I take? don't really want to be that close actually. I'm just going to exit out again. Just want to check I had the perks on. I think I did, but let's remind myself. No, I didn't. Defense. I'm just going to take the one actually. Although that said, the other one did more damage, so basically if you get, although it's a multi-shot, if you get right up close and unleash it, it will tear apart the health of the enemies, the multi-shot. Like there is no tomorrow. My eyes are actually feeling a bit tired these days. Oh, I need to actually be shooting the wrong one. I should take the 4-way one, I think. Inflicting more damage. Yep. I don't think the shield was that good, but I'll just remind myself how long it lasted for. Some of the powers did make a lot of these bosses much easier because a few of them did actually. So yeah, I'll just do that with the power fire of the boss. Special shot, as you see there, it absolutely starts acting as a strimmer. I'm going to restart, so I'm not paying attention. This is probably one of those bosses that I'm getting to that age where I can feel my eyes at this time of night are a bit tired, so I can't do as well. This is definitely one of the things that as you get older, I mean, yeah, one of the issues with difficult games is once you get to a certain age, you're going to struggle to do them because your faculties just aren't as good as what they need to be. No one games forever, sadly. So you can see how much damage you can do with that shot when you get it right. What was the big shot doing now? might just take the big shot. I may jump onto the next boss actually, because this one is A, slightly tricky, and B, so my eyes are actually getting a bit tired, so I can't. Well, I can see it, but I can feel it. The other boss, the next, the 6th boss, was much easier. The 7th, no, the 8th one was a bit easier. The 7th one was probably the hardest, I think. How much additional damage the yeah, the multi-way shot does do a lot more damage in that close combat. Not doing well at this form. Yes, take the split one's definitely the one that does the most damage. I could just take the shield and keep the shield up. Let's try that. I'm also going to take damage and just going to pop the shield up. The shield only needs 3 and just provides you with it. I mean, yeah, visually very effective, simple. The music was rather enjoyable, although it was probably perhaps a little bit forgettable. It's 4 to activate this shield. Oh, I thought it was 3. Oh, it was right this time. You can use the shield. Ah, you guessed right. You can't collect thingies while. I think this, as I remember, this boss, the first form was actually the hardest with the double phase. After that, it got a lot easier. terrible run. Oh wow, I seem to be literally picked the perfect place to hide. I swear half those shots hit me. Go with the you basically want the damage in this one, so you want that one. Give it a shot. If I die again, I'll be able to do another boss quickly before I finish off for the night. I think I showed almost all the bosses in the previous video we did. Now that is not how you use a multi-shot. As you see there, you can do an awful lot of damage when it's used well. Not like that though. Just restart up. Now the aim is not to throw away when you have a good start, as I've been doing for this second half of this run. Now what I want is one of those nice easy patterns that allows me just to throw bullets up close to it. Oh yes. You'll see there, that's half the energy bar gone. Oh! One thing I will say is the mistake. The actual, when it goes black and white, that does sort of the inverted colours at the end. That does make things actually very clear and helpful. It really does make, in some of the brightness, it's much easier to see some of the attacks, and I think that was intentional. There's another very subtle, there's some really subtle, well put together design in this. Yeah, I should actually just try and keep away from the bosses for some of their attacks. So you want to be at end length fire like there, so you want to be close enough so that your shots hit, but not so close that you can't evade stuff well. Yeah, this pattern's probably the nastiest one. All the others aren't too bad. Just actually close there just so I can maximise the damage. down for a minute again. God, this is dreadful. Ah, I didn't even beat him in that run. That was terrible. Yeah, so this was not a good run. It's taken far too long to beat. Oh, it's going to beat me now. Okay, I'll just show off one or two of the other bosses. I'll quickly exit out of this mode and show you one of the other bosses. So that's probably one of the trickier bosses that I can definitely feel it a bit. So arena mode is where you can practice on them. It also gives you all the swanky abilities. Originally this wasn't available till after you beat, before you beat the game. This next boss I'm going to go for. Let's do that. Abilities, let's give myself yes, there was an increased fire rate ability. There's quite a few. Basically your best tactic is to give you abilities that increase your... Oh, I didn't mean to do the Herald. Didn't mean to do the tutorial chat. Exit. I think this will take me back here. Yeah, so our next... Yeah, that was the one. So this is the next one. I'll just show off the next one, because the next one's not that hard. I think this is the big chap. Yep, no wrong. So as he goes crashing into some easily dodgeable bullets. Ah, now I remember I took the shield for this guy. That was wrong. But yeah, very much hand-eye coordination game, but a very, very good. There, I actually demolished him with that attack. So I do recommend this hugely when it comes back on sale again. I don't know when it will be back on sale, but supposedly it will be at some point. I think some bosses might have been a respite from others, so they obviously put it a mix, so obviously you didn't get all the easy bosses in one go, you didn't get all the hard bosses in one go. As you can see, this guy, quite a nice sort of, quite a relaxing, yeah, that's probably the hardest bit when you electrify the water. You've got to make sure you're standing on solid ground, otherwise you're getting electrified, and right now he's trying to give me the electric degree. Well, the downside when he does that attack, you can basically just block. See there, I'm just absolutely blasting him for that 30 seconds. So that's probably one of his Achilles heels. The fact he's got that huge attack. Oh, walked right up to me. Don't want. Can I finish him with that? Not quite. But there he goes. So let's stick with to So this is the undead guy. He's quite tricky. I think I showed footage of him. That's the final boss. I won't show the final boss. I'll show the undead guy, and then if I might quickly do the other one, and then I'll wrap it up. This chap is probably the hardest one in the game. And notice at first you can't actually hurt him, you have to hurt his crystal. So attach the crystal, he starts lugging it round. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap that up there. That was a showcase of me streaming quite a few of the bosses. I thought I'd just do those later too. I won't show you the final boss. I'll leave that for you to discover as and when this game's available on sale again. So I'm going to wish you a good night, a good evening, good afternoon, or a good morning, wherever you are in the world. I've been your host for this randomised gaming video. As always, if you like this video, please hit that like button. If you enjoy our content on our channel, please do subscribe. I am doing, due to current world events, been streaming to keep people help be a bit cheerful every sort of 9:30 most weekday evening. In fact, we've pretty much done it solidly since about March. So. But anyway, I'm going to finish for now. Thank you all for watching this video. Please hit that like button. Subscribe if you're a new member to the channel or you haven't seen our content before. I've been your host, Random Gamer Riven. Good night, everyone. See you all tomorrow.